Hello and welcome to Art Rhode Island. I'm Martina Windels. Today we will take a look at arts as economic engine. Joining me in the studio are Clay Rockefeller, hello.
Okay.
Clay co-founded the SteelYard, an industrial arts and educational non-profit organization created as a catalyst for creative economic revitalization in Olneyville. In addition, Clay has completed 2 for-profit real estate ventures, Monahasset Mill, converting a mill building into a condo complex, and a 10-unit commercial industrial building. All 3 venues are located in the Valley neighborhood of Providence. Welcome.
Thank you.
Aidan Petrie, hi. The co-founder and chief innovation officer is Ximedica. Ximedica is an industrial design company focusing on medical device and consumer healthcare product development, with approximately 140 employees in Providence. Aidan studied industrial design at RISD before founding the company in 1985, and he's on the board of the Massachusetts College of Art. And Randall Rosenbaum, hello.
Hello.
Randall has been the executive director of the Rhode Island State Council of the Art, RISCA, since 1995. He serves on the board of the New England Foundation of the Art, and he is a practicing musician. Welcome all. Thank you for coming here today. So the subject is art is economic engine. Can art be an economic engine? I'd like to start with you, Randy. Can it be, and if so, how?
Oh, I think art is the quintessential economic engine. It is, first of all, clear that when artists do their work, they are contributing to the economy in significant ways. They are spending money to produce work. They are selling tickets to people who come to enjoy and appreciate their work, and they're
so, for example, going to the theater,
going to
Trinity Theater and
you buy
buying
a ticket, you go in and you see the performance, but you do more than just that. You hire a babysitter. You drive your car downtown, you park your car, and you spend money to do that. You go out to dinner beforehand and contribute to the economy in significant ways. You
so
see
it
the
multiplies.
show. You see the show. You buy a box of candy at the show. You buy a drink at the show, and after the show, you go out and have a drink and talk about what you've just experienced. All of those contribute significantly to the economy. And you also have to think that everyone who's been on stage lives and works in the Rhode Island economy and pays rent, buys groceries, sends their kids to school, does everything that contributes to the economy as well.
So trickle down.
It's more than just trickle down. It's trickle up, it's trickle sideways, it's trickle every possible way. And it's had a significant impact on the Rhode Island economy.
Okay. I would like you, Aidan, to introduce your company and what you do and how that plays into this conversation. You're here as the Rhode Island poster child.
I'm a commercial artist, so in industrial design I'll put on the commercial side. Designers typically have a different perspective on the arts. But what we do is, or what we've grown to do, is we develop medical devices and healthcare products for companies like J&J, Boston Scientific. We have a full engineering staff, but at the core of the company are about 25 products of art schools. So industrial designers, graphic designers who work on all the interfaces. And where, for us, when you're developing a medical product, there's an awful lot of things that have to go on and in order to get that product to market. But if you don't have an idea in the first place, there's nothing to develop. And so where the designers and where the creatives and the innovators come in is they make sure that there is an idea there, and we are typically interfacing between a surgeon or a pharmacist, and the designers then process that into something that can be made. So it's a key part of the development process is you've got to have something.
The creative moment.
It's a creative moment, and it's a process to a degree, and it's observation, but it's very much, it's not engineering.
Well, I think there's also, just to go back to your starting point, I think we can include design and art and creativity all sort of under one hat here for the sake of this conversation. So I wouldn't necessarily make that separation. Now I'd like to go to you, Clay. Talk about creativity at the SteelYard.
Sounds good.
explain what the SteelYard is maybe first, and what you do, and why you do that.
Yeah, in its essence, or the most pared down, I guess, explanation of the SteelYard is it's an industrial arts center and education facility. And we have a number of different programs, open enrollment courses for people to come and explore either a hobby or learn a trade. We have job training programs such as Weld to Work, which it's a 2-week program geared towards 18 to 23-year-olds and teaching, basically job skills, but also what the expectations are in a work environment in terms of showing up.
So a busy place with lots of
absolutely,
arts
and lots of ways to plug in.
Creativity-related activities.
And one of the most successful components of the SteelYard is the public projects component, which is we do the kind of walk the line between design and utilitarian product that could otherwise be basically ordered out of a magazine. So we make a lot of the trash cans, tree guards, bike racks, and whatnot that you see around the city. And what that does is it offers supplemental income opportunities to local artisans and crafts folks, and also some of the youth that come through the programs. But in general, what I am no longer on the board of the SteelYard and focus, although I do a lot of work as a sounding board and still love the organization as deeply as ever. My general focus these days is really looking at issues surrounding urban ecology and how to integrate and create spaces that really foster innovation and creativity, and thinking about in Providence, definitely. So trying to think about what Providence doesn't have and how to think about growing it here. So thinking about an industrial arts center, we didn't have that, and trying to kind of be complementary to what we already have. And
grow on the existing.
Yeah, the existing assets that the city already has. So it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I think of it as an installation and as a piece of art itself, and trying to think carefully about how to grow our city in such a way that it really place innovation and creativity at the forefront of our growth.
So you're incubating the SteelYard, Manhasset Mill, and
trying to I think, and trying to bring groups together that really can find symbiotic relationships, which is kind of the true component of a healthy ecosystem, is elements that can work off of each other and grow from each other in a healthy way. So trying to bring, we have an information architecture and design firm on the site that ends up doing a lot of work, or was doing a lot of work with a large-scale sculptor and designing components for his installations.
So one feeds off another. Mm-hmm. What we talked about before, ecologies that.
Well, when we started off, we were. This was 28 odd years ago. We were in the Foundry, and the Foundry at that time was stuffed with artists. It had room after room after room. The space was great. There was a little bit, some asbestos in there somewhere. But it was a really cool space. But it must have had 200 individuals in there, some of which have gone on to have significant businesses. We've been very fortunate. But it created just a massive activity. But we were all there, and we all, would meet together in the evening and go to the
really organic in its essence as well, because in the space, the foundation was there for that to occur. And it was kind of a natural incubator, which is still occurring in a number of buildings in and around Providence, which is really exciting to see. But it's been, I used to think we had, our building stock was kind of endless, but having been now exploring other cities such as Pittsburgh or Baltimore, which really, went through a process of losing a huge number of their population at some point, they have endless numbers of buildings, and so it's constantly, a place to move, whereas I think we're starting to get.
Do you think we're getting to the point where that becomes an issue?
It's starting. I think you can see it becoming more of a finite resource in terms of these types of spaces existing, where they just foster this type of activity, and it's a real challenge in terms of from the real estate standpoint, but also I would imagine from a government standpoint, because a lot of these buildings aren't necessarily fully up to code, which allow them to be. But isn't the most important ingredient in that sort of scenario the individual people? The people. I mean, we have the people.
So you can make a space.
Oh,
but Rhode Island has a lot of very creative people.
Absolutely.
Well, and when you stop to think about the role that artists can play in taking a building that is minimally up to code, and turning it into something truly spectacular through sweat equity, through the work that they do as creative individuals to make a space work for their work. There are endless opportunities here in Rhode Island. And the smart communities are the ones that are identifying those spaces and encouraging artists to populate them and helping them to populate them. Exactly.
Yeah, we have a number of, I mean, in our area alone, you know, the Butcher Block building is also heading along that same path in terms of offering a number of fairly raw spaces for small creative businesses as well. And then Nicholson File down the way, and, you know, unfortunately, it is unclear exactly the future, you know, of that area in terms of what will happen with some of those buildings. But I think that, you know, we're at a point which is really great for new businesses. And this is me taking off my real estate developer hat and thinking about the people who want or need cheap space, because there is going to be a lot of space available, and is a lot of space available to exist in currently. Yeah,
I mean, one of the reasons we have right now, I think, 80,000 square feet here. The natural place for our company probably would have been Boston. Boston's a medical. Because they're, okay. You had the right sort of education, a lot of folk, a lot of contractors.
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem was all there, but it didn't have one thing, which was what brought us down here. Two things probably. One was we could get a lot of space, which we need in order to do our work at a relatively reasonable rate, and we had a lifestyle sort of choice that we happened to like Rhode Island, we like the Bay, we like RISD.
Fishing.
We like fishing. So, you know, sometimes that draws us there. And Providence has worked out well in that a lot of our folk cross the border every morning. So, well, they're doing the reverse commute.
And that's a critically important point. I really do think that the future of economic development is in attracting companies that could be anywhere, but that come to Rhode Island for a couple of different things. First, the environment that we have here, not just the natural environment, which is spectacular, but also the cultural environment and the energy that Rhode Island communities have. And we should be attracting these groups, and they then establish themselves and attract others, similar organizations.
How do you do that?
Well, you do that by providing a welcoming environment. You provide that by helping them to identify appropriate space to live and work in. You help them by providing an easy access to the materials that they need to do the work that they need to do. You do that by providing a business-friendly environment so that they can spend less time worrying about, you know, how to establish themselves and more time actually establishing themselves. And there are people who can literally locate their business wherever in the country they want.
And I guess it would also be helping businesses that are already here to grow, right? It doesn't necessarily have to just be businesses coming from out of state.
I think that's absolutely true, but I also think that as we help to grow the businesses that we have here, within, you know, a certain understood brand for Rhode Island is a design, creativity, and innovation state, or at least can present itself as such, then the companies... Does it present itself as such?
Because I wonder about that sometimes. I wish there would be a sort of a stronger...
More emphasis placed on it.
Exactly.
I really do think as the state rethinks its economic development strategy, that it needs to think in terms of that brand.
But one of the things we do have is we have a lot of folk who go to college here who are looking to start things. We've got one of the country's better art schools. We've got a lot of the organism that you need to start businesses is here. We have a retention issue. We don't facilitate folks staying very much. An awful lot of the bright young things tend to go west or go north or go south. And that needs, sometimes it needs money, sometimes it needs advice, sometimes it needs to just be informed that you could go and be part of an incubator.
Like a personal connection is also at the root of it to a lot of, I think to some degree, and that's what at least happened for me was it kind of got into my heart here, and I wanted
Well,
to
that
be
happened,
here.
I think, to both of you,
Yeah.
right? You went to Brown, you went to RISD, and you stuck around.
Sure,
and
but I
started
wouldn't.
to do what
know,
you did.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't bet on my heart.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, there needs to be some sort of a more of a continuous strategy to say we are going to work to inform and facilitate the retention of creative people in this state.
And I mean, I think that there have been some really strong efforts made over the last couple of years in regards to that specifically. With you have Beta Spring, which is also bringing in businesses from locally, but also nationally.
Can you just take a second to explain what that is?
Sure. Beta Spring is an accelerator that essentially they take applications every year. They kind of, it's a wraparound service essentially. So they also offer space as well as access to mentors that could help
for people who are interested in starting a business.
Well, for those accepted into the program. So essentially, people come to the Beta Spring with an idea. They submit an application. The applications are reviewed, and essentially you're accepted or not. And if you're accepted, you basically take part in a accelerator program, which essentially means that you're given the resources and access to the minds as well as the space to really take your business possibly to that next step. So we have, that's been
that's fairly successful.
It's been doing well, and you also have I think on the kind of design more physical side, you have Anchor, which is another kind of collective studio space that has small businesses growing out of it as well.
We just opened an office in Minneapolis, and we moved into an incubator there. And they made it so easy for us to set up in a city that we had no clients in, we didn't know much about. We moved into an incubator. It had meeting rooms. Our first client came 3 doors down from us. So in terms of just...
And you chose Minneapolis because that was easy, or was it strategic
Minneapolis
to your business?
there are probably 3 major device centers: Palo Alto, Minneapolis, and Boston.
So once you chose it, they made it very, very easy for you to
but it was a sponsored...
roll out the red carpet and...
I didn't go that far, but they certainly they made it very easy to land in a university where we're within walking distance of the university, the medical school, and it's a life science focus, and the building is full, and it was full within the first year, and they're now building another 120,000 square feet to put more
You could
in.
appreciate it. I mean, that's a form of user interface, a physical, experiential user interface in terms of coming to a city. And I think that also ties into some of the stuff that Randy was talking about from, a governmental side, and trying to essentially step up and acknowledge our resource of, and our wealth of designers and whatnot here. But trying to I would love to see the city and the state make more of an effort to actually integrate that into kind of its presentation of itself, and make it part of the state's kind of mentality as well as its its user interface, so that we have that type of thing where where a new business comes to town, and you have the list of this type of business. You need to introduce them to these people. You need to put them in this space, and you really kind of it's a wraparound service that exists.
And we have so many people
and retain businesses.
Well, the key to building a creative economy is providing that welcoming environment, because again, you have to stress these people can go anywhere.
Well, I would even go further. Sometimes I find the conversation is the creative economy versus the economy. I find that separation arbitrary. So what you just said doesn't only apply actually to the creative economy.
Well, absolutely.
Any
but
business.
If you differentiate between small entrepreneurial-based companies and major corporations with hundreds of employees, the similarities between the creative economy and the economy in general, you still need innovative thinking, you still need creative problem solving, you need all the aspects that the creative economy has. It's just a different scope and scale and focus.
I mean, if you look at the creation of any business, you're going to at some point imply somebody for your web, somebody for your graphics, If you need a space, you get an interior designer. If you're going to build something, there's going to be an architect involved. So business as a whole, big business, small business, at all the adjacent points, there are creative individuals who are doing something that the graphic designer will keep the printer busy. And so it's that sort of interface between a healthy business all round is healthy for creatives all round, and if you can get enough gross mass, then the artists, the fine artists can do well off that, because then you've got more people with more money, more interest. So it certainly feeds off itself.
Right. Actually, to extend that even further, what I think would be a great thing to have happen are more, let's say, non-creative businesses thinking about how to engage and use, for business development purposes, creative individuals. Let's have an artist in residence at Amgen. Let's have, you know, someone who could contribute to a corporate philosophy of creativity and artist-based thinking across the corporate structure.
So at Mass Art, well, I'm not being too much of a turncoat to be on the board of Mass Art, I hope. But
you're a graduate of RISD. So
I'm a graduate of RISD, and I teach, and I teach at RISD. But Mass Art has a really good program that connects artists and designers at Mass Art both to the community and to the businesses. And so we've got involvement now with multiple hospitals. We have very strong community relations, similar to what you're doing at the SteelYard. The college is providing all sorts of activity for local nonprofits, and I think that's something that, if I'm going to be mildly critical and say, I think RISD could connect better with the community. It is a little bit of an island in the community here.
You can be critical.
There it is.
That's how you change things. So that's part of the conversation. So.
I do not think it uses its power as an arts institution in the community of Providence well on any level.
So if they would get more involved, they could, more connections could be made. So.
I think this could be said about a number of community resources, and not just at a university level. I think there are significant organizations in our state that can contribute to a better and more cohesive environment for creativity.
Can I ask you a quick question, which somewhat relates to Martina's comment about the distinction between, you know, the growth of the economy and growth of the creative economy? And I'm just curious, because I know you do a lot of work up at the State House, and obviously the interface on that level a fair amount. Is making that distinction helpful in lobbying and helping kind of advocate for you know, the arts in general, in terms of acknowledging the creative economy and kind of building the language around that outside of kind of as something not necessarily separate, but kind of in parallel to the economy?
We're almost getting to the end,
I'm
so
sorry.
I would, no, that's fine. But maybe you can answer that question and
wrap up at the same time. I'm happy to do that.
Wrap up and the answer into one thing.
I mean, it's a great segue into, well, just what is the persuasive argument? And I found the persuasive argument is economy in general. It has not been, up to this point, developing a creative economy or even a subset of an economy that compels people to support the arts, let's say. I think the argument that we can make is that when Trinity Rep and PPAC and AS220 and all the downtown Providence organizations are active, and duplicate that with the 39 cities and towns around Rhode Island, that the restaurants are full and the businesses are busy and all of that, and it contributes to the economy. Pennies on the dollar. I mean, the State Arts Council's budget is 0.07% of the state general fund. So it's a tiny, tiny investment that returns hundreds of millions of dollars to the Rhode Island economy on an annual basis. So yeah, the the arts and the cultural community contribute significantly to our state's economy, and that is the argument that we need to make toward, why should the public care? Why should the public support it?
And will it be good for Rhode Island? How will it benefit Rhode Island?
I think the arts are part of Rhode Island's economic recovery.
So I mean, I would just build on that a little bit, which is that I think that the arts community as a whole has not done a very good job of articulating its value in business terms. We're all great on the spirit side, but in terms of pure business terms, in equating our value to economic growth, or the economy as a whole. So I think that is a story that needs to be told much more clearly.
So be more vocal about that.
But have proof points. The key, I mean, you can be as vocal as you want, but you've got to have numbers, data, rules, and we are adverse to data.
Well, there's actually studies available to make that point, so that's good. Clay, you get the last word here?
I would love to see more creative people in positions of power and getting involved in the government in one way or another, such as I think Randy's a great example of somebody who is a spokesperson and really really understands what it is that we're trying to do as a community. I would love to see more people running for offices who have a clear understanding of the value of creativity and innovation, and ultimately would love to see a Department of Design, to some degree created to actually, like, if we value design so much, let's put it front and center and actually celebrate the fact that we are a design-centric state.
State Department of Design. Excellent. So if art and design are serious about business, will business take art seriously? One thing is for sure, in Rhode Island, those two are very intertwined. Thank you once for joining me here. Until next time, I'm Martina Windels for Art Rhode Island. Goodbye.
Thank you.